this morning, and I'm happy to be here. And that's the main thing. And as I navigate today, I want to say that we're in a stage that we have to consider that things are moving. Just imagine you're in an exam room and you have the ability to listen to things, to hear information, and you're seeing those questions in front of you, and they're difficult to understand. But you have a device in your ear that tells you exactly what's happening. Let us face the reality. We are not far from there. Actually, I can see that this has happened in the past. As we embrace technology, we have to understand that changes are going to take place, and we must be cognizant of that. So, this morning, I want to focus on the landscape. And I want us to understand that the landscape of education consistently changes. But we have to understand when we talk about honor in the age of AI, we have to understand that honor belongs to students too, because students want their education to have value. And of course, educators want their students to be in a position where they can say, yes, I am able to give an education that is quality, that has value, and that is where we are as it relates to AI. So, in understanding the landscape, we have to understand that there are certain things we have to do. So, in this session, I want us to explore the landscape. I want us to think about integrity challenges as it relates to your education and for those giving you that sort of window to establish your education. I want to talk about ethical considerations. And finally, I want to talk about best practices because I think those are important areas that we must address. But let me say, as we navigate the world, it's not going to be easy. In understanding the challenges, we have to look at the landscape. For the last 2 centuries, cheating has evolved significantly. In the 19th century, cheating was primarily by copying or using a book that you were not allowed to use in an exam. Once standardization took place and you had testing, it went deeper. It went into confines of whispering in an exam, exchanging notes. And by the late 20th century, we had internet revolution. Academic cheating was on top. Students began accessing online materials, and of course, they could purchase written exams. There were practically essay writing platforms would be used to develop these concepts. The proliferation of smartphones and various technologies, wearable, also emerged, and that is where we have the problem. So today's challenges, as we talk about honor and as tutors and students battle with the concept of AI, cheating has not been a new thing. It's not new. It existed before. And one thing that we have to realize, if you're a student, teaching has continued in the same fashion for the last couple hundred years. And of course, you're learning in that position. And for those teaching, we have gone the traditional approach of making the assessment similar to what has been going on for centuries. So let us remember and let us not forget that within the context of honor, we have always thrived to ensure that honor is in our education system. Because if we do not have honor, it means that the piece of paper that you get at the end of your study has no worth. So we have to understand the concept. And as we go further in understanding the concept or the landscape, I would say we have to think about the ethical considerations in relation to that. There are challenges that we must understand. And as we examine the integrity challenge, we must understand that students possibly cheat for many reasons. There are endless pressures. They had to work. Some students will say, I had no time to do the assignment, so I actually did X or Y. But as we navigate the world, we have to understand that there are advanced methods that students are using. Some students are not happy with that because many students want honor in the quality of education they have. And they don't want to be competing with someone that is going to be cheating their way out into the world. And of course, that pattern continues because research shows that individuals who are dishonest in their academic career continue in the work world. And of course, the competition continues. So with sophisticated methods of cheating, I can say there are many things happening. There's answer sharing applications, deepfake technology that can put me in a space pretending to do an examination while I do something else. I'm, of course, verifying my identity, but the identity is fake. Then, of course, we have plagiarism detectors that have been out there for the longest while. And now we need AI detectors. Let me say that to start off by saying the use of AI is already dishonest is far from the truth, because we can use AI for many purposes. But when it comes on to submitting your work and saying that the work is yours when you have done nothing else than ask a system, it does not represent the learning. And teachers are battling with that, as well as students are saying, I want my education to be relevant. Now, so many people thought as online learning took place, there would be greater need for online proctoring. So what they had was individuals using computer-based software to do tests. And what they found out eventually was that students were smart. The student would open a browser, start working on that browser, and open another browser and do the exam somewhere else. In a recent study of data collected by EDUCAUSE, a leader in educational status in the United States, it found that many students realized that they could go around the lockdown browser by other means. Many students have also indicated that if they were to be stopped from using any AI tool, they will still continue. And that is, of course, needs to be considered, because the habit will not change, because everything they're using now has connection to AI. And when we look at data integrity as it relates to security, if students have access to data and they have access to vast amount of data, it's possible that one student could decide to compromise that data set and manipulate their scores. So these are integrity challenges that both students who want to uphold their current status of their school that they went to, or the degree that they're holding onto, want. And there's also the aspect of educators wanting to ensure that the product is worth the work that they're putting in. So we have several things to consider. Now, as we consider the ethical considerations, we have to consider balancing what's necessary, of course. When we talk about integrity and honor, it should not come at the expense of the invasion of someone's privacy. I say this because many of the tools that are using now by educational institutions, they collect a lot of data. They collect videos. They collect the stroke of your fingers on the typewriter or the, of course, computer. They collect every aspect of data. And of course, they are in your home sometimes. Now, we have to understand there's a balance between honor and ethics. How do we get both is going to be important. Too often I hear individuals say, yes, we can get students to turn on their cameras. But as we ask students to turn on their cameras, do we understand that the home situation might be different and we're going to be taking in data that I might not want to see? And as we ask again, we have to look at the issue of equity, because not many individuals will have access to these technologies, right? So if they do not have access to the technology, then if we're trying to find a way forward as it relates to ethics, we have to understand that if you recommend a tool to be used and students do not have access to it, then it's not equitable. And of course, if you are here as a student, if you do not have access to that tool, it puts you at a disadvantage. There's also need for transparency and accountability. We, of course, as you navigate the world, we can see that if students feel that an AI system is making decisions and you're assessing them and you're saying you're trying to be ethical and not biased, and they do not understand the system, then they're going to have transparency issues, because they're going to say it's being marked or graded by, of course, a machine. And of course, they do not know how the grading system operates. So these are some things we have to think about. And when we think about the bottom line for me is the impact of learning and integrity. If students again are producing most of their work using AI, what are we assessing? And what will the student be learning? So I think for everyone here, whether you be a student, you have to think about what will you gain from this experience when you're finished doing this activity if you use AI? Did it measure what you gained? Certainly not. So as educators, we need to plan accordingly. And as students, you need to understand that it is so important that what you learn is for your benefit, and that can only come from engaging with the content, as pointed out earlier. I think when it comes on to the whole issue, we have to develop AI literacy. And both faculty members, teaching staff, and students need to understand what is required for AI literacy. It includes educating everyone about the ethical use of AI, the importance of academic integrity. It involves educating and fostering an understanding of AI as it promotes in the context of what I would say responsible use. And of course, if students do not apply the ethical framework, then there's going to be some penalties too. And we have to get real with that because we want a system that honors the education values that we have tried to establish over the years. And then we can think about, of course, implementation of hybrid assessments. I think students want to use AI, and I think some instructors want to use AI too. So if we can get both, we can practically do some implementation of hybrid assessments as it relates to using AI. And within these assessments, you would plan accordingly. And of course, you'd allow those assessments to be graded sometimes by AI. But when it comes down to those essay writings and so forth, then the tutor, the professor would have the time to give feedback for that critical movement to take place. Within that framework, students can grow critically in their field and understand the value of education as they engage. Yes, we have moved away from Turnitin and few things to think about more robust tools of plagiarism detection. And I think as we go forward, there might be a space for this, as I would say at this point in time, as plagiarism detectors, and I put this up, for example, AI text detectors enhance themselves by additional research. The other end is that there's always a tool at the back end that will paraphrase and try to defeat the first tool that was created. So it's going to be an ongoing battle, I would say. As we navigate we have to think about accountability, because if we have accountability, it means that, of course, everyone has a responsibility. We must promote ethical use of AI in policy. And let me also say that once the policy is violated consistently by a student or whoever, because some individuals, I've heard about one paper that was submitted by even if someone who is a faculty from another institution that had practically connections to ChatGPT. So we have a distinct need to ensure that we promote ethical use of AI from a faculty position as well as from students. And as we go forward, and I'll just share this resource with you because I think it's important. This is an open resource for faculty members or instructors here. It's free, and it's all about your decision. So if you're a student, I think one of the ways for us to navigate this world is to provide you with low-stake opportunities to gain your initial practice in mastering the task or mastering that activity or that competency. And then we move to larger assignments, of course, that would leave or get rid of some of the pressures as it relates to these high-stake assignments. I consider this aspect as focusing on the learning process rather than the actual testing. So if we can develop pathways to this, it's possible. Which brings me to one of my final slides. And I want to take a little time because let us look at the context. For the last couple months, people were saying many things. And I like what Lodge says. I had some reading on him. I presented with him some time ago. We can ignore any form of AI within the system. We can ignore it and say it will go away like any other technology. But based on the current trend, we know that AI is here to stay because it's already integrated in many productivity applications that we're using, even on your mobile phone. And we can say we can ban it because that was the first thing that appeared to be common discourse when ChatGPT came in. Everyone talked about banning ChatGPT or other AI. We soon found out that students were going to use it anyway. Yes? And then we can invigilate ourselves out. So we're going to have proctoring examination. We're going to go back to the last 500 years and we're going to sit them students in a classroom. We're going to write those test papers. We're going to allow them to leave their instruments at the back of the classroom and just open their suites before taking their exams, not to distract anyone. I just remember my studies in the UK. And we're going to invigilate ourselves out of this. Or we can embrace. We can embrace and say we're going to combine some assignments and use artificial intelligence and still maintain the honor of our academic integrity. And of course, you might want to redesign around it. But we have found out that redesigning around it is not going to be helpful because there's such movements taking place that you can't avoid that. However, my thought is that we have to rethink how we are going to be doing education. We can't continue the same way. We have to rethink how we're going to design assessments. We're going to think how students can be more engaged in their work. We have to rethink how we're going to formulate assessments that will be meaningful towards students learning in the work world. So many things have happened. For example, my daughter said to me the other day, will I use that formula when I go to the workplace if I want to do law? And I said to myself, I've never used a certain mathematical principle yet, but notwithstanding, it gave me critical thought. So we have to rethink how we're going to design education. And as learners, if you're in here today, you have to kind of rethink what makes meaningful education for you to be able to apply it in the real world. Which brings me to my final thought. As education continues to evolve, we cannot hide ourselves away from what's there. We have to engage. And by engaging, we are going to create a pathway that's going to be meaningful. I heard about intelligence tutoring today. And one of the thoughts that I had was the issue of where it's going to go. You have the ability now, based on ChatGPT 4.0, to communicate with an application that can give you instant feedback. While it might not be totally accurate, it showcases where we are going. And as we go to these places, it's a journey. We need to consider how I will need to change my learning and how I will need to change how I teach in the future. And of course, it starts by making those critical thoughts of rethinking where we're going. I want to say thanks. I'm going to share this video with you. It's a powerful one that you will see how I've interacted with an application that I created using ChatGPT. Thanks again, and I look forward to your questions.